found that, like, that you were going to go that deep for it? Or did it just evolve that way in terms of, like, I guess I want to do is like the process of your development in it. Like, you know, your friends said, go ahead and do this, and then you found yourself going deeper into your family history for it, and then you're looking at different aspects of life. So, I guess like when you were doing, what was your development process in the end?
I think that, like, for me at least, it was like I didn't realize that like as I was doing it, like you were gonna need to do more things. The reason I'm wearing the shirt is I went through a 40-hour training session at a place called the Genesee Center in Inglewood. Genesee Center is a shelter for abused women and their children. Also, it's a domestic violence advocacy program and organization there, and they work in the most difficult part of LA, most difficult, I guess, section or district there. That includes Inglewood and parts of South Central. So they see all kinds of things. I mean, they see some very difficult things, and they have a very difficult job. But I needed to go there because I needed more than just my family experience. Like as I started doing it, I was like, well, you know, you can't just draw on which you try to unravel within your own family. If you're going to try and speak to an audience of people, what you need to do is go somewhere and kind of get more of a basis about the issue itself from people who deal with it every single day. So I was like, all right, well, I kind of looked on the internet and I found them, and I was like, well, this is really cool. And I went there and I went through the training, and it's eye-opening because I'm in the room with people who work at this place every day and people who are using this to kind of advance their careers, but they're the people who are pretty much on the front lines who are dealing with these women as they come into the shelter in these different situations, and who are constantly trying to get the word out about Genesee Center and constantly trying to get as much, I guess, help and whatnot to come in for them to be able to do their jobs there. It's a nonprofit, so they're always trying to put some funds together. But I realized that I needed more, and they were a group that was just awesome and provided a lot more for me in that regard. And in addition to that, I kind of used my faith to influence the feature I'm writing right now, because there has to be some sort of answer. So the feature is less about the relationship between the girlfriend and boyfriend, and more about the counseling they seek later, and the woman who actually takes them through that counseling, what the result happens to be. And it's more about the story of how people are trying to not only treat but prevent this issue, and the different things that are happening right now. So that was my evolution, was that I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to make this piece and we'll kind of see what happens. But I came out of it with like, whoa, you could make, not only could you, it was going to be a web series or something. First I was like, no, man, you can make a feature out of this. Like, you can really, like, you can make something large out of this if you just kind of commit to the idea that treatment is like the primary thing there. That's to me, like, if you're going to make something that's important, why don't you make something important and try to have an answer? Like, don't like just, not that I do the answer, but like I have been around people who are looking and searching, working very hard every day to try and get the answer. So I might as well make a piece that almost pays homage to the work that they're doing all the time, and can kind of give people information if they're watching. You know what I mean? So.
And then for you, for your development for Blind Date?
Well, for how the development happened was I was working with a documentary filmmaker, and I had just been sort of freelancing with them. And it had been a couple of years since I had really directed a narrative film myself, and he said, well, hey, let's get together and shoot something. And I was really trying to come up with something that I could do quickly. And this film was shot in a day. And so basically I said, well, let's try to come up with a story that's not too overly ambitious, that could be kind of self-contained. And we came up with the ending, and of course I don't want to give that away because I want people to come to the film tonight. But we kind of worked from there, and it really came together as far as the writing process. Once I found out what thematically it was about, that really excited me. And I was like, okay, this is the way that we could do that. And I think it also created some challenges because we decided, okay, this is going to be a silent film. And we thought that was the best way to make the film. And that's kind of, and what kind of challenges would that make? And it was really, because I hadn't done that before as far as going about it that particular way, so I thought that was pretty neat. As far as development, because what we had to do was from when I wrote the script to doing the actual production, it was only a month or so away. It was just mostly pre-production. And I did do, because this was shot in a day, and I didn't want to not challenge myself. I think every single project you want to artistically challenge yourself. And so I was like, okay, well, am I going to be able to do this? And so I was real precise in terms of storyboarding it and to get it filmed. So that's kind of how it was done.
So, when you guys were shooting this, like there's different challenges. Like for you, this is the first time that you actually are like putting all this outside of being an actor, being the person who created it, and have to also figure out all the logistics for it. As a first-time filmmaker in that respect, what was the hardest thing that you did not know that you wish you had known?
So it's two different parts of my brain, I think. So my job for years was producer in TV. So I worked in TV, mostly sports, in Baltimore, and then in DC, and got a job out here in LA. So like that part of my brain can do all that fine. I can put a call sheet together, I can do this, I can do that, I can figure out, like figuring out logistical stuff I can do like fairly easily. It's like, okay, like turn that off, turn that pro on. Like that was the hardest part. And I anticipated, fortunately I lost a producer partner, she just kind of disappeared last December, which just happens, people do that. So I had to do I had to do both of them a lot by myself. There wasn't like another person on set. I was able to rely on my guys because I knew them really well and work with them, my director and my DP. So they kind of, and also my production manager was awesome during that. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of that without them because it's like we had to, there's a scene where we're in a coach's office and we had to build the office in the second floor of my manager's office. There's like a multi-purpose room. So I got like a little desk from like Goodwill and whatnot, and we made some like fake photos and stuff, and got some other props in there. But like, I was building the office, and then we shot the scene later, and I was like trying, like we're in there, and we had a couple of PAs, and like we put this thing together, and I'm like helping them do it. That to me was it. It wasn't like having to do the work. It's just like, if that was all I had to do that day, that would have been enough to do. Like to try to figure out, okay, like we got a good plan here. How are we gonna do this? Okay, do we have all the materials set up? Like that would have been more than enough to do. It's like, okay, now do all that. Okay, now act and be like the primary in the scene. So that would have been nice to know that like, and there were times where like the producer of mine would keep creeping in, like, oh man, shoot, we didn't have the bottle there. Is that gonna screw up continuity? Like, dude, you can't worry about that right now. In the middle of the scene. Like, you can't worry about continuity in the middle of the scene. So, my guys are just like, you gotta not do that. Like, you have to just focus on this. I was like, all right. That was far and away the most difficult thing. Was trying to have just one mind as opposed to these two different sides there. And the other thing is, I wish I would have more fun. I was so. Both parts were so worried that I didn't have as much fun as I have now doing my job. The reason that I do this and decide to do it full time is because I love it. So if I make my own piece, I should be at least having fun. Obviously the content is difficult, but like you should have fun and enjoy what you're doing if you're making your own thing, you know what I mean? And I just wish I would, like that was the one thing, we only shot 3 days, but the more I thought about it later, the more work I've done since then, I'm like, man, why wasn't I like more loose or more relaxed? It would have led to better work too, I think. You know what I mean? So those are my two things.
I have to admit, like the first feature that I ever produced, I had just moved here, and I was on an assignment for 6 months, and I left it to get a chance to produce this feature. And I produced other TV shows, but this is the first feature that I ever did. And they said, so can you produce a feature? And I said, yes, I can. And I said, what's the budget? And they said, $50,000. And I'm like, okay. I actually had no idea how to produce a feature. I had a book, and I read through that book, and I followed it exactly. And then the TV show that I was working on, I called the producer and the coordinator and just go, hey, I don't understand this. What am I supposed to do? I told you. I think that was the most stressful thing. And then as you go on, I think I'm still stressed, but at different parts of it.
Yeah.
So, but I realize that it is one of those things. I'm still having fun doing it. No matter what I do, I'm still having fun. I think that's the best thing. But for you, this is not your first time really, doing it. It's one day, but it's different now. Are you more relaxed? Are you more relaxed?
Yeah, and I think how I approach it too. But I think every single project is different though, and there's always a challenge because you still have pre-production and production and post-production. But in terms of your logistics, it's always going to be that variable. Where are you filming it? Who are the people that you're working with? And I think one of the things that I did learn too is having, especially if you're going to do directing, is having a really good AV. And I think that is, as far as production is concerned, and make sure that your pre-production is really good. For me personally, I'm somebody that I've always, even when I was in school, and just related to anything, is I'm always somebody that has to do their homework. And what that means for film is, I have to kind of break down the script, I have to storyboard it, and it still means there needs to be room for improvisation and playing with it, but it at least means you come on set and you feel prepared when you've worked with it, you've worked with your crew, and you have that. And then you can play a little bit with it. I mean, that's my own personal experience and kind of how I am, I think. Some people are a little bit more able to, they don't like doing storyboards, and I understand that, but I think from how I work, I tend to come that way. As far as this particular piece, I mean, I think kind of like when you're wearing multiple hats, it's your focus, okay, is the shot, how balanced is the shot and things like that, and you're trying to at the same time work with your actors. I just wanted to do that because the most important thing for me was making sure I liked the story, but I wanted to make sure that the actors had that, I thought, the good performances from it.
That's great. And then I guess for you guys, what's next for this film? You're going for a feature.
Yeah.
And so is it slated to, when is this?
Well, I'm still, right now I'm still kind of finishing the writing on it. And, obviously I've been getting out to different festivals. Fortunately, I was able to, be selected for this festival, as well as the LA Shorts and Cal Shorts. So the goal is distribution and financing, and ideally through that networking at different festivals and trying to reach out to some other producers who, through some networking that I have, who actually are already doing faith-based material, to kind of help with that part, because I'm at the point where I can't do everything for sure. So no. I have to the one thing that has to happen is I can start writing this, but I'm trying to reach out and find some people who can kind of jump on board to help finish creating the project. I know for a fact I need another writer, even once I'm finished. My current draft is kind of almost done, but I need a female writer who's, there's my primary character is a woman. There's things I can't write, I just can't do it, you know what I mean? And I'm just trying to put a good team together right now is the big thing. I think that's the hardest part for me, is I'm still navigating how to really get a good team together and really find distribution. I think once you get those things, then everything else falls into place when it comes to financing and your timeline and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't launched it yet to the public, so that's the other thing. We'll launch on October 17th on YouTube. So I'm looking forward to that response, and looking forward to seeing what kind of artists kind of come to the surface and are interested in working with me on a piece moving forward. But that's the next thing. It's exciting, but at the same time, I wish I had more of a concrete answer for that.
Good.
But I guess in some regards, I'm like everybody else in LA. We're all working in that same capacity. But yeah, it's going to take. I'm several drafts away probably, but the one thing I want to have is to get my piece out there for people to see it in the public and in the industry, and then from there just kind of work forward to producing the feature. Because I think the story is there, I think the content is there. I think that the angle we're taking is different and will lend itself to people wanting to come and see it. You know, we're not taking the angle from the abused woman's perspective. For me, in my mind, it was always about, well, the man is the one who has the problem. You know what I mean? He is the abuser is the one who has the problem. And I shouldn't always say man because it's not always a man. But so how does that get treated? Like that is more of the angle. I wanted to do that because I hadn't seen that before. Obviously we've all watched media and seen shows where domestic violence is in it, and that's kind of the angle you don't see is how did that abuser get there in the first place, and how can you is there anything that can be done to salvage a relationship? Is there anything that can be done to treat the abuser? Is there anything that can be done to change the cycle in that family? You know, that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I think that the feature, I mean, I'm kind of going on here, but for me, like making sure that is the crux of the feature and making sure that people see that in this piece should lead to everything else as far as like logistically kind of getting it together and being interested. So.
Good luck with that. I hope you find that female writer. Women in film, this, like I said, I'm the co-chair of the Women in Film Committee.
Yes, we should.
You know, you should definitely, you know, you could always, you can put an announcement out. Yeah. We have a job board listing. And you know, there's always people looking. There's some great writers out there too. And then for you, what's the next step for Blind Date, and what's the next thing you want to do then?
Well, the next step for Blind Date, it's been in a couple of festivals, and there's 2 more I haven't heard back from. And after you see this film, you realize that there's not a feature going to be based on this film. It's really designed. If it's 8 minutes, and if it was, let's say, a minute longer, it would be outstanding. It's welcome. It's really one of those stories that just was meant to be self-contained, a short piece. But right now, I'm trying to really work on trying to, you know, every single project, I'm trying to challenge myself even more, and I think the next project will be even more, beyond more challenging than this. And you think I'm arrogant. I came here with an 8-minute festival, now I'm trying to work on a feature-length documentary that I'm trying to work on right now, and that's in the process of research with it. And I definitely have an outline, but it's really going to be, hopefully by the end of the year, I can come up with a partner I'm working with a 5-minute promo, and we can start going to trying to show people that we can get on board in terms of what we're trying to do with that. And I think one of the things that I enjoy doing is it's more about the story for me and what medium is that story best suited for. So I don't really have that dichotomy of, well, do I just want to do docs or features or comedies or dramas, and it's more about what is the story about. And it was funny because the composer on my film that I did in college, and I did these pretty dark films when I was in college, and I called him up and I said I really wanted him because we had collaborated together, and it's always fun when you have that spark, and you, like you were saying with your actors, and you have that, just sort of, you work with other creative people, and it's like you want to continue working with them, and you create those bonds. And I called him up and I said, you know, I really love this work, and I wanted to see if he can do it. And I didn't know if he could because he just had a baby. And needless to say, I said, before you accept it, see if you like it. And so I sent it to him online, and then he called me back up and he said, yes, he wanted to do it, but he's like, I didn't expect this from you. Because the adjective people keep describing it as cute, and I said, well.
So you're looking for a challenge now.
Yeah. I mean, this had its own challenges, and I would say one thing that, yeah, absolutely, every single piece does, but I think, but also it's something that you're passionate about, and I think right now we don't, and I don't want to speak for Dustin, but you're just interested in something that that you really want to tell. It's a story you want to tell, I think, and I kind of sense that from you, Dustin. So that's kind of, this was one of those, and the one I'm working on right now is absolutely one of those.
Great. I'm going to open up for questions for anybody who wants to ask them something. Anybody have any questions?
Sure. I have another question for you about leaving your job, because that's something I'm looking to do pretty soon. What was sort of like a signifier that like this was the time, or like did you put an end date on it and say like 6 months from now? Like, it's done?
You know what? I've been kind of working towards it all along out here. When I first moved here, it took me like a year to get settled, and then I found a really cool acting coach to help me get set up with not only my craft again, but I catch shots and all the marketing kind of stuff. I've been working on my material and all that, and working on just my craft, so I felt great about it. I'd already started going out and doing different things. I had a manager that I was working with, so I was in a good position to like do it. We had a new VP get hired at Fox Sports about 8 months ago. Really intelligent guy, King Lopez. Just super smart guy. But what happens when you get turnover at the top is like everything else kind of, there's a seismic shift. So it was very strange there. And I've been there, you know, right around 3 years, and it was just, you could feel it, like it was just strange, kind of like there were new faces on the boss level, and people were like, okay, what's happening? And then suddenly, like, half the people I work with got laid off. And it was just, it wasn't because I mean, I work with a guy who went to Yale, and I swear to God, he's the smartest guy I've ever known. He had my same job description. He was one of the smartest, I used to sit right next to this guy. He was one of the smartest people I ever knew. They laid him off. Not because he wasn't good at what he did or whatever, it was just because his skill set for what they're trying to do now didn't really mix and match. So it's the old, I mean, there was a great clip, I think it was Jim Carrey at a commencement had a speech about, you know, you can fail at the thing that you don't want, so why not fail at the things you do. And I kind of had some money saved up, and I was like, I'm not, like, you know, I knew something good to me. It got me really far. It got me from Baltimore to LA in 13 years. It did a ton of stuff for me, but it was never the goal for me to do that for the rest of my life. So I was like, look, I just got to jump. So I kind of planned it out with my managers, and they were like, well, I'll wait till the end of the summer. You know, this is the best time to do it if you're thinking about doing it right now because it's going to be slow and yada yada. So I waited a couple of months in there. So it was about 3 months before I actually did it.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I did it, and I don't think, I think my managers thought I might like even take longer to do it, but I was like, nope, 2 weeks is in. Like, they were like, oh, okay. So you're leaving your job? Yeah, that's how I was going to do it. Like, you know, you have to like do it too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, I planned it out in my mind, but I was like, as it got closer, I was like, there was never a thought of like, well, maybe I should wait another 2 months. Well, I was like, nah, the soccer season starts in August. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be doing this thing full time, that's when it needs to start happening. I'm really happy that I picked this time of year to do it because things have been going really well for us as far as what we wanted to accomplish kind of in this first 3 months. So I would, if you're thinking about it, I would try to make sense out of it, but at the end of the day, you gotta jump. You gotta just do it if you're gonna do it. You know?
I would have to echo that. You know, it's one of those things like, yes, we all need to make a living, and you have to definitely keep that in count. But there just comes a point when you have to decide if you are going to take that project. Like that first feature that I told you about, that 50,000, I was working on a TV show, and it was my first TV show, and this feature was an independent. I left the TV show, and that was a regular paycheck. And, you know, my boss, my executive producer said, he asked me if I was coming back, and I said, I would like to come back, but there was no guarantee that by the time I finished wrapping this production, if they would have my job. In my case, they hated my replacement. So they were actually asking me as I was wrapping, is when are you coming back? I was getting calls from him and the production staff because they really hated my replacement. And so I got really lucky, but I took a 3-month gap where I went from like making a weekly salary on a TV show to basically that entire 50,000 shoot, I made $500. But it's my first feature, and I did it and know how to do it. And so you just have to sometimes just take that chance and go, because that's how you build it up. You build up your relationships and your credits and your experience. So, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I think the experience is invaluable, and sometimes when you put things off, time keeps building and building and building, and once you do it, you'll thank yourself for doing it. And there was really great advice that I got. I'm reading this from somewhere. I forget where I got that quote from, but what that was is you're giving a gift to your future self for doing it now, because you'll be thanking yourself, and I bet you do now, especially because you have all these skills, and it's that kind of a...
I think you just have to jump. I mean, I've been jumping, and you know, it's been scary, but I think it's very great. But I also love what I do, and I think in this business, you have to also continue to love this business, even with all its ups and downs and crazy people and great people. Does anybody else have any questions?
First of all, I want to say your sense of empathy for what you're doing is like incredible. It's beyond incredible. I want to find out, you rarely hear a male filmmaker say, I need to find a female writer, because you're representing a certain community, or whatever, right? What do you feel like is going to be your greatest challenge in finding a female writer to help you with this project?
I think it's understanding in my mind, I have mapped out, I have a very, outline of treatment and everything else, so I kind of have like who specifically the female characters are in it, and it's making sure that what I have in my mind actually makes sense to her. Like it's one, and it's based upon not only like life experience and kind of things I learned going through the advocacy program and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, to me, it's something that it also needs to be like easily digestible. I think that it's something that I don't want to really like overthink, and I don't want us to go back and forth too much on. We just need to agree somewhere on who all specifically who all the female characters are in the piece. Because to me, I think like that's our demographic. Like it's going to be people of color. It's going to be mostly women from 25 to 40 who are watching the feature once it's finished. That's who it is. It's the 9:30 service at my church on Sunday. That's who it is. Okay, it's not very difficult to figure out. But it's making sure that if they were to see this, like if she reads it and sees these characters, that it makes perfect sense very easily, like very quickly, is the biggest thing. And I don't, the only character we need to really dig into and kind of dive into her background and who she is our primary character, the counselor. But I think for the rest of the women, they just need to kind of stand either for something or kind of for what we want to make sense about. I think the biggest thing too is the victim in the short and in the latter piece. She's not like the classic victim, I guess I have to say. She does actually have some means, like classic victim. I mean, as in what you would normally see when you watch a show, and she comes from some money, she has some means. So making her like a really believable person, and also kind of showing that there's this distance there. She is a different ethnicity, economically she comes from a different place. So, but at the same time, she is affected by this as well. So it doesn't. That's the one thing we're trying to get out there, is that like domestic violence doesn't have like even though there are different stats about who's more likely to be in the situation, it's 1 in 4 women. Think about that for a moment. Like I was watching NFL earlier, and we all know about breast cancer awareness and how all these different groups, the guys wear pink when they play and all this kind of stuff. And it's like how well spread that program has been, and the great things they've done. Well, that's 1 in 8 women who will experience that in their lives. So it's like, and it's not, I'm just putting it in a perspective of awareness and kind of, who these women are, I guess is what I'm saying. And a big part of it is, there are a lot of different reasons. A big part of it is many of these cases, unfortunately, are undocumented. But, so long story short, we need to make sure that we kind of craft them in a particular way, and we just need to kind of agree on what we want them to say to our primary audience. It's probably the biggest challenge.
Anyone else? Questions? Is there anything else you guys want to add?
Yes, I do. Purplecrest.com. Please find Genesee Cinema on there. They're raising money this month. You might have seen Kerry Washington put some stuff on social media, but she's got a face of this right now. But all the groups that are involved in Purple Purse, they're kind of trying to raise money and hit all their marks, and the ones that, I guess the one that hits their mark first will get $100,000. So go to purplepurse.com, look for Genesee Center, donate whatever you can, if you can. Also, Gifts of My Kin will be out October 17th. Hopefully, if you just punch in Gifts of My Kin on Google, it'll come up, because I got the .com and all that other stuff for it. So look for it then. I'm going to pump some stuff on Instagram and whatnot too before it's released.
And then also, like for both of you, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
I'm on Twitter, Dustin Green, same thing for Snapchat, Dustin Green, same thing for Instagram, DusGreen. I'm the only black Dustin Green on Facebook. Easy to find. You'll see many Dustin Greens, and the only one is black.
Wow, there you go. Can't beat that. I'm on Facebook, and with my uniqueness, Darren Rudy, it's 2 first names, and also Gmail. You can reach me there, and I'm the only Darren Rudy that I know that I've been the only Darren Rudy on Facebook. So that would probably be the best way to get it.
Well, thank you everyone for being here on the panel. And there will be another panel starting at 3:30. So, come back here if you're interested in that one. There is a VR demos going on upstairs on the second floor, so please check that out. Actually, there's a domestic violence one. Yeah, it's viewing as a movie experience rather than a full 360 experience. There is a 360 experience, but we don't have that experience here. We're just being able to view it as a movie too. So there is a way for VR to be viewed, movies to be viewed in a 360 kind of space.
Okay.
So you should check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.